What is getattr exactly and how do I use it? I've recently read about the getattr function. The problem is that I still can't grasp the idea of its usage. The only thing I understand about getattr is that getattr pop is the same as calling li.pop. I didn't understand when the book mentioned how you use it to get a reference to a function without knowing its name until runtime. Maybe this is me being a noob in programming, in general. Could anyone shed some light on the subject? When and how do I use this exactly?
Getattr object x is completely equivalent to object.x. There are only two cases where getattr can be useful. You can't write object.x because you don't know in advance which attribute you want. It comes from a string. Very useful for metaprogramming. You want to provide a default value. Object.y will raise an attribute error if there's no y. But getattr object y5 will return 5.
Objects in Python can have attributes, data attributes and functions to work with those methods. Actually, every object has built-in attributes. Try dir none, dir true, dir ... dir in Python console. For example, you have an object person that has several attributes, name, gender, etc. You access these attributes, be it methods or data objects, usually writing person.name, person.gender, person.the_method, etc. But what if you don't know the attribute's name at the time you write the program? For example, you have attributes name stored in a variable called _name. If then, instead of writing, you can write some practice. Getattr will raise attribute error if attribute with the given name does not exist in the object. But you can pass a default value as the third argument, which will be returned if such attribute does not exist. You can use getattr along with dir to iterate over all attribute names and get their values. A practical use for this would be to find all methods whose names start with test and call them. Similar to getattr, there is setattr, which allows you to set an attribute of an object having its name.
For me, getattr is easiest to explain this way. It allows you to call methods based on the contents of a string instead of typing the method name. For example, you cannot do this because X is not of the type built-in, but str. However, you can do this. It allows you to dynamically connect with objects based on your input. I've found it useful when dealing with custom objects and modules.
A pretty common use case for getattr is mapping data to functions. For instance, in a web framework like Django or Pylons, getattr makes it straightforward to map a web request's URL to the function that's going to handle it. If you look under the hood of Pylons' routing, for instance, you'll see that, by default, at least, it chops up a request's URL, like into customers and list. Then it searches for a controller class named customer controller. Assuming it finds the class, it creates an instance of the class and then uses getattr to get its list method. It then calls that method, passing it the request as an argument. Once you grasp this idea, it becomes really easy to extend the functionality of a web application. Just add new methods to the controller classes, and then create links in your pages that use the appropriate URLs for those methods. All of this is made possible by getattr.
If you want to see more, please consider subscribing.